Welcome back to the Explainer Command Center. So today, we're booting up our Day 21 rotation to brief you on the absolute critical network ports that every cybersecurity student, and honestly, every professional, really must master. If you want to understand exactly how data moves, and most importantly, how attackers actually break into systems, well, you have to know your ports. Consider this your foundational map to network defense.
Okay, let's dive right into today's structured intelligence briefing. Our system boot sequence covers 5 key areas. We're going to start with web communication ports, move into remote access ports, cover file transfer and email, decode DNS and network services, and finally, we'll wrap it all up by looking at things from the security perspective.
Before we isolate specific targets, we kind of need to establish what a network port actually is. We aren't talking about a physical plug here. It's a logical endpoint. It's essentially the virtual gateway that applications use to communicate over the internet. They use TCP when they need guaranteed delivery, or UDP when speed is the priority. Think of it like this. If an IP address is a building's street address, the port is the specific apartment number inside. And here's a fun fact for you. There are exactly 65,535 of these doors available on any system. Why? Because that's the absolute mathematical limit of a 16-bit binary number.
All right, kicking off Section 1, Web Communication Ports.
This brings us to our 2 main web ports. First up, Port 80, which handles HTTP. Here is the massive catch with Port 80. It is completely unencrypted. If you send a password over Port 80, it's flying across the network in plain text, meaning anyone sitting on that same coffee shop Wi-Fi can just intercept it. On the flip side, we have Port 443 handling HTTPS. This is your secure, encrypted tunnel using SSL or TLS protocols. For modern web browsing, using Port 443 is simply non-negotiable.
Moving right along to Section 2, Remote Access Ports.
You know, when managing systems remotely, you basically have 2 famous options, but really, only one of them is safe. SSH, or Secure Shell, operates on port 22. It is an encrypted, highly secure method for remote device management. Directly opposing it is Telnet on port 23. Telnet is this legacy protocol that actually transmits your administrative credentials in plain text. Seriously, if you see port 23 open on a modern network, warning bells should instantly go off in your head. To put this into a real-world perspective, let's talk about PuTTY. It's an incredibly popular tool. When you configure it, you are actively initiating a secure SSH connection, targeting port 22 directly in those settings. This is the exact setup a systems engineer, or an ethical hacker for that matter, uses to establish an encrypted shell into a remote server.
Now for Section 3, File Transfer and Email.
It's absolutely crucial to understand where these legacy systems fail us. Take FTP, for example, running on ports 20 and 21. Port 21 handles the control commands, and port 20 moves the actual file data. But, and this is a huge but, it's all plain text, making it highly insecure. Then we have SMTP on port 25, which is the absolute backbone for sending emails. However, because it lacks built-in authentication, port 25 is heavily abused by botnets for spam relay. In fact, a lot of internet service providers today just actively block it outright.
Now, while port 25 is busy sending email, receiving it is a completely different story. Historically, you'd pull emails down using POP3 on port 110 or IMAP on port 143, but just like HTTP, these are totally unencrypted. So to ensure your private messages aren't getting intercepted on the wire, modern security relies on IMAPs on port 993 that wraps your email retrieval in a nice, secure layer of encryption.
Let's shift gears to Section 4, DNS and Network Services.
Welcome to port 53, the domain name system. Honestly, without port 53, the internet as we know it would pretty much cease to exist for the average user. It's the essential phone book of the web. It takes human-readable website names, like example.com, and translates them into the computer-readable IP addresses that routers actually use. It typically utilizes fast UDP packets for quick lookups and TCP for the heavier data transfers. Let's zoom out a bit to see the big picture here. DNS servers really act as the glue of the entire internet. When a client wants to reach a web server, they don't know the IP address right off the bat. So they query the DNS server on port 53, they get the IP, and only then can their routers seamlessly connect them. If an attacker manages to take down port 53, they literally blind the network's ability to navigate anywhere.
And finally, Section 5, the security perspective. Understanding ports is, without a doubt, your primary weapon in both offense and defense.
It allows you to map out the entire attack surface of an organization. By simply seeing which ports are open, you can identify exactly what services are exposed to the internet. If you see port 21 or 23 open, you immediately know insecure protocols are running, and that helps you detect vulnerabilities way before a threat actor can exploit them.
When you start using powerful recon tools, like IMAP, to scan a target, you're generally going to see 3 states. First, open. That means an application is actively listening. It's a potential entry point. Closed means the server is there, but no service is home behind that specific door. But filtered, now that is fascinating. That means your scan packets are simply being dropped into a black hole, which is a massive indicator that a firewall or an intrusion prevention system is actively blocking you.
Well, excellent work on completing day 21 of our rotation. It is super important to just memorize these absolute core ports, from the incredibly insecure legacy of Telnet on 23 to the vital domain resolution of DNS on 53, all the way up to the secure web traffic of HTTPS on 443. These specific numbers must become second nature to you whenever you're analyzing network traffic or configuring a firewall. I'm going to leave you with this critical thought as we close out today's explainer. You know the top targets now, right? The standard gateways that every attacker scans for first. But remember, a system has 65,535 possible doors. So, out of all those thousands of ports leading into your network, which ones did someone forget to lock? Stay curious, stay vigilant, and I will see you in the next briefing.